Hi, welcome to City Country 6 Podcast. This is where you get to hear inside conversations between city and country about life, kids, womanhood, culture, black southern things. Eavesdrop in on our phone conversations to laugh, cry, amen, disagree, and agree with your bi-weekly dose of what did I just listen to? Let's listen in on this week's most recent phone call of differences.
Hello, hello.
Hey girl, hey. I'm sorry.
How are you?
I'm not as hyped as you are.
Oh, I'm exhausted, but
Ooh, you
I
sound better
can.
than me though. You sound awake. You
Oh,
said, yeah.
oh no, I'm exhausted. I'm very tired.
Yeah, why? I got a question. Without going into too much detail, why have you been up since 2?
Oh, because I went to bed actually earlier than normal last night. I went to bed
Okay.
at 9 o'clock, which never happens. So I guess my body was like, "Up, you got enough."
Uh, hmm.
And so I woke up around 2, but then I didn't get sleepy again until around 6.
Time to get back up.
Oh yes, that sucks. I hate when it happens. And no matter how much you try to make yourself go to sleep, your body's like, nope.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to sleep? Let me show you
Mm-hmm.
I can stay up. And
Yep.
then all of a sudden you get like you crash and then you just
Mm-hmm.
go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So then my kiddo came and got in bed with me around 6. So like right when I was getting like I was gonna say dizzy, dozing off. Maybe I was getting dizzy too. Dozing off, and then he got into bed with me. And so my husband was up moving around. So he just came and got into bed and we kind of snuggled for a little bit and we both fell back to sleep. So then like around 7:30ish, my husband tried to wake me up. And he was like, okay, you gotta get up and take the kid to school. And I was like, okay. It was like around 7. And then around 7:30, he tried to get me up again. I was like, okay, I'm up, I'm up, I'm up. And I kept dozing off. It was like maybe around 8. I was
He,
like,
he ain't
I
going.
looked at my I looked at my baby. I was like, you want to stay home today? And so my husband wasn't in here. He was in the other room. And he's like his neck like jerked back around. He's like, what? Yeah, I think we're gonna skip today.
You are notorious for playing hooky and
Good.
encouraging
Like,
children to
of
play hooky.
course, of all ages. Like everybody deserves to skip school.
Oh yeah, I agree with
I
that.
have a cousin who is a teenager, but I'm on her checkout list. And I always tell her, like, if you ever want to skip school, let me know. I'll come check you out. And she never does. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Like I gave you a free pass to cut. Just I'll let you.
Never. In
Never. Oh my
like
gosh.
in 5 years since I've been on her list, never.
Mm,
She actually
mm,
likes going, so which I think is a really good segue into today's topic. But she loves school, and so
mm.
she doesn't want to miss.
Oh well, more power to you. More power to her.
I love school too, but hey,
I love the concept of the education part. Again, I love that part.
the
But
concept of the education part.
the concept, the idea of learning, I enjoyed that.
School
The
is so much, well, learning. Let's talk about that term learning to
okay, hold.
gain knowledge.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm not going to school right now.
No, I'm just saying, this is just my off the wall, exhausted brain definition. But
Okay.
I would think the word learn means to gain knowledge of something.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that regard, especially when we're talking about K through 12 education, you're learning not just academics, but you're learning a lot more. You're learning like social things as well, like what's acceptable social behavior. You're learning about conflict resolution. You're learning about so many other things. You learn, I mean, we have to teach kids in school like things like what do you call it? It's like civics, or how to be a good citizen in the world,
Oh
things like that.
yeah, they teach them that early too.
You teach it. No, you teach that. You're supposed to teach it from kindergarten through 12th grade.
That's well, I I just remember because I don't remember that when I was going to school. I don't remember being
Character
taught.
education. That's what I'm thinking about. You think you do character
Uh,
education in elementary school, but that translates when you get to like being older in middle and high school, being like it's more like civics kind of
yeah,
stuff.
current.
But yeah.
Ours was more like current events, so you can learn what other people are doing in your city or in the United States or what have you, and you can see what you can contribute to the world in a sense. Or where I was from, United States, they really didn't include the world. But I just noticed that when see, I was going to school, especially in kindergarten, I was like, why are they pushing community workers? Why are they pushing, you know, like just involving yourself in your community? Like, why are they pushing that so much? I'm not against it. I was just wondering why, because I just didn't remember it when I was in kindergarten or
But
first,
it's not
second grade.
necessarily like organized work per se. When you get at that age, it's more so, again, being a good citizen in your community. And at 5 and 6 years old, your community could be as big as the playground. How are you a good citizen on the playground?
Yeah, but they
If you
actually
see
use the
someone
term
fall,
though. That's the thing. They use that term, citizen, community
right?
helper, that stuff. And I was like, what?
Hmm.
Like y'all
Hmm.
using some big words for some little minds, but then they still get it though. If you
Right. I was gonna say you have to use the terms that they can understand. But yeah, no matter where we are, it's kind of like that term neighbor. Who is my neighbor? Your neighbor is anyone who you not cohabitate, but coexist alongside. Like, so it's not necessarily the person next door, which we sometimes use that term loosely, next door neighbor. But your
yes,
neighbor could be someone in your house of worship. That's your neighbor. Again, it's just someone in your community.
right. Yeah.
So
No,
yeah, we
you're
start that off as so that's all a part of the learning aspect.
mm,
So I know you don't
see.
like the social aspect of school, but the social aspect, when harnessed the right way, is still a way to teach. It's a way to learn. Like, you can't think about those kids or even adults who have a lot of book knowledge, but they don't know how to interact with other adults. We
I
call
was
them
that
weird.
kid. I was that kid.
Okay, yeah, we call you weird.
Well, I was happy to be weird.
I mean, that's a skill set you have to have. Like, you can't live in isolation.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
Apparently, you don't live in isolation. You have 2 children, so you learn how to talk to an adult.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I learned the concept of it basically after high school. Because I mean, when you're stuck with the same kids, after a while, it's like technically your family separated. Like, okay, you're all in foster care in a sense, and you all have to go to this one building and live and eat and congregate with each other. And then you have to go home and be around people you actually care about, if you care about them, then come back and do, and it's just like, what do I call it? I call it now co-parenting. Basically, I'm co-parenting with the teachers and what have you. You got them for about 7 or 8 hours, and then I have them for the rest of the time. We're teaching them and we're learning them together so that they can become a helpful member of society in a sense and not be a menace to society.
Of course. But then I think about too, you say you grew up in a small town. And did you go to the same school system, like kindergarten through 12th grade?
My system was a little jacked up. I'm not even gonna lie. I was in the same city school system, even though it was one of those that was kind of the city was booming, so they were like in the middle of adding schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so if everybody had one elementary, there was 2, but they didn't have 2 middle schools, or they didn't have 2 high schools. Everybody,
that's how most school systems are.
Right. But I mean, because of it's just really weird. But anyways, I wasn't with the same kids that I started elementary with. My first kindergarten through 2nd grade. I went to a different school, which was still in the same school system for kindergarten to 2nd grade. But then when I got to 3rd grade, I got plucked up and put into another school for about a week.
Right.
And then they're like, oh no, we put you in the wrong zone. You go to this school. And it's like, well, what? But the school that I went to, they already had K through fifth grade. So they rezoned or whatever. And so instead of me being in the K through 12, the K through second, I ended up getting put into the K through fifth at the third grade. So I was kind of displaced. So the kids that I hung out with at the K through 12, I think they went to, I don't know where they went. But I got
K through
pulled up.
two.
K through two. I'm sorry. Yeah. K through two. My bad. I'm tired too. They got put into another school, and then I got displaced from them. So I had to make new friends, like I was a transfer student or something. I really wasn't.
They just rezoned your, like, you went through that. Happened to happen when you were going into the third grade, but it was just a rezoning.
Yeah, it was a rezoning. But I went when they rezoned, they put me in one school for like a week. And then they're like, oh no, you're still in the wrong school. And they put me in another school. So yeah. So like, I don't know. I don't understand it. At that age, I didn't get it. I just knew that I moved schools 3 times. I was like,
but you all were reunited in middle school, right?
I don't remember any of them kids from K through 12. Like, K through second. I don't remember them. No, I don't.
Like, I literally, this is so weird. I remember, not saying I remember every single kid, but I remember a lot of my classmates from every step of the way.
Well, actually, you know what? I remember one girl, and the only reason I remember her is because I got picked on for my maiden last name because of my first name, and they would change it to a famous singer's last name, and I was so ticked off because that girl actually had that last name, and they, for some odd reason, they grouped us together, but we never became friends. I just remember her distinctly because of that. I remember her in second grade, but I don't remember her in middle school. I remember in high school though, because they put us in homeroom based on our last names. So we had the same homeroom for 4 years.
Whoa.
Yeah. We had the same, like we'd have a different homeroom teacher, but we'd have the same home. So we'd have the same set of kids for that last, A through B or whatever was in this one, B through C was in this, or whatever, however many they could fit in that, whatever. And so we were like, I can't even remember where we started or ended, but we were in that same homeroom for 4 whole years. So yeah, I remember like high school very, very well because doggone saw the same kids all the time. But middle school, were we split in middle school? No, we weren't split in middle school, but we were split elementary. So when everybody got together in middle school, I don't remember a lot of people from middle school either. I remember like a handful because we were always split up. And then once you start getting into the advanced classes or you start getting into the vocational and all that other stuff, you end up getting in your clique or your group, and that's who you're with for 4 years basically. You don't really get to, so like if you started out in like choir or band or you were in athletics in middle school real hard, well, that was your group all the way through high school. You really didn't go and hang out with a lot of other people. So yeah, very cliquish, very, very cliquish. So you can understand why I don't really care for the social aspect, because I saw it so much as a gate. Now, I will say my graduating class, we were not the most diverse, but we didn't play the racist crap. We would actually gang up on people when they would do that. And that was on all spectrums from jock, cheerleader, prep, emo. It didn't matter. Like everybody would gang up. And then we even had people, it didn't even matter if you were gay, straight, whatever. They would all like gang up on whoever was picking on the other person. Like they didn't just play. Like my class did not play that. And it was just weird. It was very few that were kind of off their rocker, but they never said it out loud where they can get their butt beat. But I mean, I'm not saying our class was perfect. It's just that you just didn't hear a lot of that. You didn't see a lot of that. And if we saw in the upperclassmen or lower class, and it was just like, no. So there were people that defended other people, no matter who you hung out with. But it was just different. You still had that barrier though. So you still had that cat fights and you dating my man. And I'm like, it's a boy. It's a boy. It's not a man.
Gosh.
You know, still had the teen pregnancies and all that typical high school drama, people dropping out, or, the best football player, or the best basketball, baseball, all that stuff was still there. It's just, I don't know. It was just interesting to see how, I don't know. It was just weird. That small town was just very odd. I kind of think our class, because it was one of the biggest classes that came through. Our class busted the seams of that city, and they just weren't ready for it. Because a lot of us left, and I was just very shocked that a lot of us from that class left. I don't think 450 of us actually graduated, but that's how many were supposed to graduate. And that was like the largest class at that
How many?
moment. 450 something in the class. Didn't mean all of them graduated though. I think only like 300 and something graduated. But on our t-shirts,
that's a pretty large class. Like, not to like the social aspect. That means like you said, it was very diverse. So you didn't find. Everybody has their people, is what I call it, their village.
Yeah,
you didn't have your people in high school.
I had a group that I hung out with. I'm not gonna lie. I did have a group that I hung out with. I kind of sprinkled through though, honestly. So I had this one girl, rest in peace. She was kind of like the class. I don't even want to. She was very progressive, very, very progressive. She was emo. I guess you would say emo. She dressed in all black. She had the chains, but she wasn't like sad. No, she was like one of the happiest people you would ever meet. But she was just very live your life attitude. And I hung out with her. And then I kind of hung out with her group a little bit. We talked and whatever. And then I had this other like part of the band people that I talked to a little bit, and some of the choir folks I talked to. And like, I didn't not have a person I couldn't hang, but I didn't have like my core. These are the people I'm always hanging out with. These are people at my locker. These people I'm always talking to. I'm sitting with at lunch. Now I got kind of pick and choose wherever I sat or wherever I wanted to hang out with. I just didn't have I would say I thought I did have, but it's one of those things where I was chasing the friendship, and I even knew that in high school. And I was like, okay, I can let that go. And I think I let it go around junior year. I stopped chasing it. I actually had a lot of people that were higher up than me that I kind of hung out with in school. But other than that, no. You could say I was weird and I was a loner. I was very book smart. Common sense was far from me. I don't remember what that saying is, but when God said, come get common sense, you thought he said, I don't know, whatever it is. And I didn't get in line and get it.
Oh gosh. That is interesting. So my high school experience, or my school experience in general, is a stark contrast. So you remain in the same school system your entire life. Well, K-12.
Mm-hmm.
I, however, I have a hodgepodge educational experience, which I'm actually grateful for.
Mm.
And I'm a person who believes in choice. So it kind of aligned anyway with who I would end up becoming. But I grew up in a very small city it was small compared to the surrounding cities, but it had 3 elementary schools, 1 middle, 1 high, which again, you're always going to have more elementary schools than a middle and a high, so that's not abnormal. But the school in my city that I was zoned to go to, it was considered like the more affluent school in the district.
Mm-hmm.
My parents opted for me to go to the least affluent school in the district. Why? Because because all of my family went there. Like all of my family is from this city. So like when I say my family, not just my parents, my aunts and my uncles, but also my parents, aunts and uncles, their cousins that they grew up with. It's like literally 6 households of families that are all related, that all they lived in that city, went to school to that city. So it's kind of like one of those, if you pick on one, you knew you had at least 15 cousins to fight. Like they roll deep. So they all went to, like literally, they all went to the same preschool. I went to that preschool growing up. I still remember my preschool. I remember my preschool teachers. It was just an amazing thing. I have always loved school. My first day of school, I was 3 years old. My mom was like, had my lunchbox. I got to the door. It was a red door with a little window. And I was like, bye, Mom. And I just walked off.
The
I didn't
detail
cry.
that you remember.
Oh my gosh, I love school. Like I remember, I told you the first day of literally almost every grade I remember. And she told me what I did my first day of school, but I remember what the daycare looked like. But anyway, we went to the same, like the daycare I went to. All of my aunts and uncles, my parents, all my cousins all went to that same daycare. And then the school that I went to, again, is the school that they all went to, even though we didn't live in that part of the city. We lived in another part of the city, but my parents wanted me to go there because of the experiences. Like they had such positive experiences. All of my family knew the principal. And that's why I graduated high school a year early, I would say, because of my birthday, I should have been held back another year. But they snuck me into school. Was I 4? No, I was 3. Was I 3 or 4? How old are you when you go to kindergarten?
5.
Hold on. Wait a minute, let me add it up. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
You should have graduated on time because your birthday's not after a certain day.
It is.
5, it 6, is. 7, yes,
8,
it
9,
is.
10, 11, 12, 13.
It is. I'm
14,
sorry, my
15,
bad.
16. Yeah, like I want to say I started kindergarten when I was 4.
Yeah, you shouldn't have got in there.
Right, but my
parents... I was going to say, because you just like 3-4 days shy.
Yeah, I'm like a week past. So
a week? Is it a week?
I should have been held back a year. But my parents were the principal, and the principal was like, "Oh yeah, she can come on." That was back in the day when there were regulations, people weren't really following for real. Mm-hmm. That was back in the day when my aunt used to put my cousin, who was 2 years older than me. She didn't have a car seat. She would ride in a milk crate on the floor of the car. I don't even know why, but I heard that's what used to happen. So,
oh my gosh,
that's the most dangerous thing I've ever heard of in my life, and I wouldn't even chance that with my child. But again, regulations were suggested, not necessarily required.
Yeah,
back in the day,
you could ride in the back of a pickup truck. So
yeah, we did that too, and that was stupid. But hey, we did it. So that was just back in the day.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I got in school early. Loved like every grade. I can tell you who my teachers are. Like to this day, I still keep in touch with my elementary school principal. We text all the time. My kindergarten teacher, oh my gosh, she's my favorite teacher of all time. I still text her. About maybe 5 of the teachers that was in my elementary school, I still keep in contact with them at least once a year. Like I loved elementary school. So even though like people would have looked their nose down on that school, I learned so much, and I wouldn't give like anything in the world for going there.
Yeah.
Because I went to school with a lot of kids who didn't have, and it was okay. Like you're kids, like kids don't care. Like kids just want to play together. Like we don't care about, stuff like that.
Yeah, what you have, what you don't have.
Right, but I'm happy because had I gone to the other school, those kids probably they were kind of, I would call them snooty.
Mm-hmm.
But they would kind of notice, oh, you have these type of shoes versus that type of shoes. Like that's not how we didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I'm just grateful for that. So anyway, went there, and then when it was time to go to middle school, my parents didn't want me to go to the middle school I was zoned to. Well, yeah, it was only one middle school. So they sent me to Catholic school for middle school. But then when it was...
What is up with y'all side of the world doing that? The CFO did the same thing, but I don't think it was middle school. I think it was like elementary or preschool or something. I can't remember what he said.
I mean, preschool is not even school, so...
Well, like I said, I can't remember if it was elementary
like,
or daycare.
Up with what, private school? Or
yeah, no, just the Catholic part. Like, because y'all both from that side of the woods, so it's like...
Well, let me see. There was 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 4 Catholic schools over there at the time.
Okay. So okay. Yeah, y'all had a plethora of options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got you.
So went to Catholic school from 6th through the 8th grade. I ain't like that. I still remember school, but I didn't like that school. But it wasn't because of the kids. Like, the kids and I, we all got along fine. It was more so I didn't like the nuns were mean.
I was about to say the nun,
except
Catherine.
for one. There was one nun. She was amazing. She was a teacher. But the other 2 nuns were not the nicest. But anyway, it was still a very pleasant experience. But then when it was time for high school, for a couple of reasons, my mom did not want me to go to the high school that I would have gone to had I stayed at the Catholic school. And so then the decision was, where do I go to high school? And I'll never forget, my mom was like, you really need to think where you want to go. And so the summer is not that short that long when you have to make a big decision like that. And so I did my research, and they were like, you can either go to X school or Y school. X school was the school I would have been zoned for. And I was like, no way. I do not want to go back to the high school that basically my friends from elementary school would have been, because I wanted a fresh start. And I didn't want to go where I knew anybody. And the problem was that all of my family had gone to this high school. Like, pictures are still on the wall of those who were in sports. And
oh, goodness.
I had some cousins who I think were a senior and a junior at the time. It's like, I didn't want to be in anybody's shadow. So I opted for the option Y. I went to a totally different school and a totally different school system because I wanted a fresh start. And so that's what I told my parents. I was like, when they didn't even know, like, that was the other thing. They were like, you can go here. I was like, I don't really want to go there. They were like, well, if you don't want to go to X school, then you got to figure out where you're going to go. And I did my research. I was like, what about this school? And they were like, I never thought about that. Are you sure you want to go there? I was like, yeah, why not? So I had to, because it was in another school system. I had to go in for an interview. I scheduled it myself, but my mom had to go with me. I had to bring my records from my other school to show that I had really good grades, that I was not, in discipline problems, because they were not going to accept me because they didn't have to. And then, so I had to have an interview with the superintendent. And then they told my mom how much my tuition was. Because, you're not in the school system, so you have to pay tuition.
Yeah.
And so when they told her the tuition, right, when they told her the tuition, I remember saying, oh, it's fine. She can pay that.
What? Like, you got her bank account number. Wait a minute.
I knew how much my tuition was in Catholic school, so it was nowhere near that. So I knew she had it. I was like, yeah, she got it. And she looked at me like, I do I?
I done right.
I went to high school in a totally different school system, and it was a very small, compared to where I would have gone, it was a very small school. I think my graduating class had 60 kids.
Ooh.
Very small, but we had a very well-funded school. So we had pretty decent-sized classes, but we had, I would think for a small school, we had a lot of variety of offerings in the classes and stuff, and like just the different types of subjects and stuff. But the thing that really struck me was my 9th grade year, my freshman year, first day of school.
I'm starting to think you a doggone elephant. Ain't no way you remember every single last one of these doggone details.
I remember first day of school. I don't remember what I ate last night for dinner, but I remember my first day of school in 9th grade because I ran into 2 kids I went to preschool with.
They don't even look the same.
Yes, they did. I mean, we look much more mature. I mean, from 3 to 14 or 15. But I was like, oh my! It was like it was like a preschool reunion, and we just hugged each other, and we reconnected. One of the people, and I reconnected like to the point where like that was my bestie. But I said all of that to say, you said in your school like people had cliques and they kind of stuck in their cliques.
Mm-hmm.
At my school, it was very fluid.
Mm.
So, for example, I ended up being in the band. So, yeah, of course, you kind of hang with your band friends.
Mm-hmm.
But because my school was so small, it afforded us the opportunity to plug into a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, it wasn't uncommon for the band kids to hang out with ROTC kids, or ROTC kids were hanging out with basketball kids, or basketball kids were hanging out with people from the choir. It was just like, because more than likely you were in 2 or 3 things anyway.
Right.
And so that, I think, was the beauty of a small school. And again, we were still a small school with a lot of electives and a lot of ways for kids to get plugged in. Shout out to elective teachers. Shout out to teachers who host clubs, because that's needed outside of the academics. That, I would say, just as important.
It is.
As academics.
It is.
So that was really cool for me. So I said all that to say, like, I had a hodgepodge education. I kind of moved around a lot. But I think that was like good for me in the sense that I've always learned how to, I could like not say survive, but I can change environments and still be okay. I had to learn that. Like I didn't have a choice. And so
but you did have a choice. You picked where you went your last 4 years.
I mean, that was high school, but I mean, again, I think God, my parents said that I could, but I had to go to school. That's my point. Like I had to go somewhere. Like I knew I had to leave middle school. Like you don't have a choice about after 8th come 9th. Right. So I was gonna have to go somewhere regardless. But what I'm saying is like most people or most kids will go to the same school system, K through 12. So they would have been with some subgroup of kids in high school. They would have been together for 13 years of their lives. I didn't have that experience, that long-term classmate situation. I've always had to just kind of adjust.
Yeah.
Here's a new situation. Like elementary is K through 5. So that was 6 years. But after that, it was 3 years of middle, 4 years of high. Then I go to college, that's 4 years. Then I go to grad school, that's 2 years. And then I get my first job, that's 3 years. Like my next job. And so people were like, no, you kind of switch jobs a lot. Like it doesn't bother me because that's always been my life. Like I'm okay with shifting. Like it doesn't bother me as it would some people. So that in itself, I think, was a life skill that was kind of cultivated where it doesn't bother me, whereas I see it bothers other people. Like I've had coworkers who they were really ready to go and find new jobs, but they were afraid to go because they had worked somewhere for 12 years. Like, this is the only job I've ever really known in my career. Like, will I cut it if I go to a new environment? Well, people say I'm good here, but am I really that good, or am I just a big fish in a small pond? Well, you won't know until you go to another pond. So those are like the resiliency and, again, ability to adapt and to pivot when you need to. I think those were soft skills that were developed early in my life.
Right.
That I think have long-term implications that have been helpful.
And I feel like people in our generation are more open to those switches because of how many drastic changes we had in our childhood. Like we are the generation of seeing the computer go from where it is to from where it was to where it is now. You know, we were first introduced to the computer. So the changes in the dynamic of the classroom in itself, we can take those small changes or those small flip-flops. And then, of course, you know, your first few years out of high school, from whatever year to whatever, let's see, I'd stop at 06, maybe 05, 06. And like that's like, you just really start, because I'm like, social media starting to come out in 09, 08, like that right there, MySpace and all that stuff, that right there is when you really start to see more of the world versus, and you get kind of stuck in your own ways. Then, it's almost like it's a repeat of the generation before us where they kind of get stuck in their own ways. And this is just how it's always been, versus we're able to kind of flow with those punches, with those changes, because we've had so much change happen.
Right.
Versus sitting at a desk all day writing on paper. Oh, we had to go type. We had to go learn about the internet. We had to, we had to learn different things. And then of course, just other technology changes. Cars changed. Fast food, even the bathrooms changed. Like everything went from manually have to turn on the water to motion sense. So I mean, like we had a lot of like changes that happened as we
Let's
were
not forget the keys. Remember, you have to stick the key in the car to unlock your car.
Yeah,
we didn't have remotes.
That's what I'm saying. And then bam, adulthood. Oh, and then 2 years after that, you get the push start. It's like, wait a minute, so it's like we get thrown this stuff at us. And cell phones. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we were first, had cell phone not in the car, and we had, so it's like we're naturally okay to change. Hence why our generation doesn't stay at a job. Oh, you're not going to pay me? I'm gone. I am gone.
Because I have options.
Exactly. And I don't have to work. I don't have to have a W-2. Thank you very much. And I'm like, as much as we have to change our phones, computers, our TVs, our cars, our lawn care, I mean, our houses, well, not now, but then, our clothing, how they fit, what we have to do to, how we have to present ourselves. Hence, I mean, we're raised up in the time where you weren't supposed to get tattoos. And then no sooner as you get ready to get out of high school, oh, tattoos are okay. No one's shunned for it. So I'm like, we literally are the generation of change. So get with it. But I wanted to come back to something, and then we can go back to, I can't remember what all I said last week, because you had a lot of points to go on and I can't remember what it was. But we'll get there. But you said you remember your elementary school principal. I remember mine too. And I'm not going to say why I remember mine. Actually, I am going to say why I remember mine, because it's juicy and it's amazing. Okay. So, my grandfather was married to the elementary school principal. She is not my grandmother. She could be a step grandmother if you want to say that, but yeah. So that's the only reason why I remember my elementary school. Well, not the K through 2, but the 3rd through 5th, is because she was married to my grandfather.
Interesting. That is juicy.
And I was not on her good side.
Did you call her Mrs. Grandmother?
No. I called her Mrs. in her first name or her last name, whichever one I felt like.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of drama with that. But needless to say, I don't really have any connections with her now because my grandfather has gone on. So yeah. But that was interesting. But yeah, no, I never did, because I didn't know the lady. I didn't know the lady until then. So I hopped over there to school, and then they're like, this is who is so-and-so. And I'm going, huh? Okay. And as a kid, I'm like, okay, I'm still scared of the principal, because the principal is where you get paddlings. So I'm not coming back to this office ever again. And I would get called to the office because my grandfather would show up and be like, I want to see her. And I'm thinking I'm in crap load of trouble. No, he just wants to see me. He pulls me out of class just wants to see me. I'm like, dude, there's a weekend for this.
Oh my gosh.
So, and she didn't like that. She didn't like that at all. But moving on, my family was also one of those that went to the same school system. I do remember a middle school gym coach. Well, if you want to call her a coach, she's more like a gym teacher. And she taught my mama. She taught my great aunts. And one of my great aunts, I think, is the same age as my mom, because she's the baby of the 17 kids that my great grandmother had. So, you know, when my grandmother was old enough to have kids, she had a baby sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, my grandmother didn't know how to clink clink. She know how to put that up. She was popping kids out left and right. And I think maybe an uncle or an aunt before that, this woman, and then my uncle by marriage was the janitor at that middle school. So yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that's all I was going through that. So he was protecting me from that old lady. But she was one of them. Okay. Back on what we were saying, and the question I had last time about how you felt about schools and all that stuff and what they do now versus what was happening back then. But because you had a different experience, what they're doing now is just like, oh, la, 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 you know, unicorns and unicorn farts. Like, it's all great and wonderful. But for me, because of what I went through, I'm going, oh, schooling is a lot better now, even though there's some things I would want to change. But like, oh shoot, I lost a stupid thought. Anyway, how do you feel about school?
How do I feel
about school now? Like school and teachings now. How do you feel about the curriculum? You already explained like the time allotted, like that time is needed throughout the school day. And I understood that and I accepted that answer as in you explaining it and making it like sound. But how you feel about the curriculum, the dynamic of the school, because like school now is very much more let me think, mental health, very hands-on, a lot more teachers or a lot more interventionalists or counselors or whatever sprinkled throughout the school, aides and whatnot to help, versus back when we were in school and there was like 20, 25, maybe even 30 of us crammed in a room.
See, and I think everybody's experience is different. So that's what I mean when I said that I love my elementary school, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That was our norm back then. And that was a long time ago.
Mm.
Wow. Like, we did not have very large classes. I remember for kindergarten, for example, because our school was so small, we had 2 elementary teachers. And I remember in the middle of September, they hired a 3rd one just to thin the classes out. And I was like crying. Like, I was boohoo crying because I was afraid they were going to take me from my kindergarten teacher. And thank God they didn't. Because again, my parents knew the principal, so I got to stay. But it was one of those, like, we had, and this is a long time ago, but we had a writing lab / computer lab where you would go and you would, like, we had we actually had 2 computer labs because we had 2 different buildings in my school. So it was like kindergarten to third grade was in one building, and then 4th and 5th grade was in another building. And so we had computer labs in each. I'm sorry.
I was saying that's good because they start hitting puberty at the 4th and 5th grade sometimes. So you need to split them up.
As an adult, I don't think that should have been the case. Like, it should not have been too. Again, I'm thinking about safety at this point. But back in the day, we didn't have to think about people coming into buildings. So
yeah.
Our school was like the main building was K-3 with the cafeteria and the main office, and then 4 through 5. And it was just because of size. We were just growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so 4th and 5th grade was in another building. And then the gym was a 3rd building. But everything was connected with walkways. But again, thinking about it now, I wouldn't want an elementary child having to go back and forth between 3 buildings. And it was nothing for your teacher to send you to a different building by yourself. So, I mean, it wasn't not like everything wasn't gated.
Mm-hmm.
It was open to the community. So yeah, like, think about, you have a hall pass to go from the gym to the main building. And anybody and their parent and their mother could walk or drive through the campus. And you have a kid unattended, like that's unheard of in today's time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But back then again, it was just different times. But we had computer labs. I remember interventionists. I remember kids being pulled for not even like for special ed. It was if you just needed extra help with reading, we had a reading interventionist. We didn't have a math interventionist at the time, but I remember having a guidance counselor and she coming in doing, again, different character education lessons, like all the stuff that's required now. They were doing it back then. And I reflect on that a lot. Like, I feel blessed.
Yeah.
Because I know that wasn't the norm.
No, it was not.
So to compare that, like just back in the day to now, I feel like when it was happening, I don't know, maybe my school was ahead of the times. I know all of our teachers, it felt like, even as a kid, it felt like a family. So I think that makes a big deal too when the adults get along. It makes for a better experience for the kids. Not to say, yeah, you have to come and do your job regardless, but it still matters when there's camaraderie between the adults. And so I know we had that as well. I think in today's schools, we have such high turnover.
Yes.
That sometimes faculties don't get a chance to gel together to feel like a well-oiled machine, to get, to make sure kids are getting everything that they need. Sometimes it really does feel like people are coming in and doing their jobs.
Okay.
Instead of it being like just, it's one of those, we come here every day and this is what we do. Like, it shouldn't feel like work.
Well,
and I think kids can sense that sometimes, that a teacher is just there to do their jobs. Or now in our great southern state, we have such a, and that's really around the country in the United States, we have a horrible shortage of like teachers. So it's not going to even be nearly what we need it to be when you have people who have degrees in education and are certified, to where in one state recently, they're saying all you have to have is a high school diploma to get an emergency certification.
What?
So you're going to run the gamut between people with master's degrees and 20 plus years in education to somebody who's a college sophomore with an emergency certification teaching.
Oh my
You're not going to get the same quality. Like, every child's not going to get a quality education like that.
Well, there's so many.
So that's something I don't like. Right. I was going to say, like, the achievement gap is widening, where you have the haves and the have-nots. And unless people are intentional, who have years of experience, who have the years of education in the form of degrees and additional certifications, unless they make a conscious effort to go to those schools to serve where typically people of their caliber wouldn't be, you're never going to close that achievement gap.
No.
But it's easy to go to affluent districts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you have years of experience and extra degrees, you can go to an affluent district and make more money.
Oh, yeah.
But those districts may not need you.
Or they may not want you either, depending on the
culture of the school system.
There you go. That's what I was about to say. Their stature, and I'm going, no, because their stature would be to be a positive light, to be all this stuff, and say they're inviting and warm welcoming and all that stuff on the outside, but on the inside they have their I don't want to call it that. Well, let's not think like the boutique look. Everybody has the same look. Everybody has the same feel, and it's going, no, everybody's different. Everybody doesn't have to dress the same, act the same, look the same. You want the school to look a certain way, and it's like, no, the school should look like its community. And if your community is diverse, your school should look diverse. And if your school does not look diverse, people will pay, or they'll do the very, very, very inexpensive way if they're not far out from the school and use a best friend's address.
Okay, you can't do that anymore. But
you're not supposed to.
Well, so I have a
Wow.
few things to ask. I have my devil's advocate questions.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about when your community is diverse, your school should be diverse.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when your community is not diverse?
That's even
It's
sadder. And I said sadder. I sure did. I said the word sadder. That's even more sad. Like, and that's when you have communities going, well, we're better. We're this. Well, like, what's that one city that never ran buses? They never ran school buses. You had to come and get your child. You had to drop them off and you had to pick them up because they said running school buses would bring down their community. And I'm going, what does that say about the other places that have them? That they're run down, that they're raggedy? And another big, huge city tried to follow this one city in our wonderful state. And they were like, heck no. This city's too huge for you to have all of these parents that are paying your tax money, your paycheck with the tax dollars to have these buses run. And you just want to up and take, hundreds of buses off just because, it'll upgrade our community. Like, hold on, wait a minute. Then that makes your community look pitiful because you're restricting who can come in and who can live. And if you have supposedly, and I'm not saying you do or they do, but you claim to have the better education, but now I'm starting to think you don't. Because one, you're limiting to we're only one type of people or one group of people. And then you're restricting them even more by not giving them the tools to get a better education I think we had this conversation before where I'm like, every community should not have to struggle to get the same education as somewhere from a bigger city or what would be considered an affluent city. Like we should all be getting the same education. Our kids should all be getting the same type of education. No, it doesn't have to be, strict black and white, these are the rules, they're in boot camp kind of thing. No, because every kid learns different, but it shouldn't be to the point where, like you said, that you're only having one group of people moving in here. Now, granted, you can't stop it. People are going to be people. But I feel like that's just as much sad. And I'm saying this wrong. And I know I am, but I'm tired. Y'all forgive me. As as a rundown city of the same
or
look
less
alike
affluent.
or less affluent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they could look just like you if they wore the same clothes as you. But they're less because they don't have the means or the money or what have you to be where you are. I'm not talking about different culture. I'm talking about the same type of people. They just look different because, they just don't have the money or what have you. Now, if they were a whole different culture, well, that makes sense just because, of the way humans are. But
oh gosh, I have so see you. I'm gonna start taking notes.
No, go
because I can't remember. No, it's like you touched on so many amazing things. I'm not gonna remember to go back to everything, but
I did do that earlier. I wrote down like a couple of things you said because I was like, oh yeah, I want to remember to tell her something about that.
I gotta remember to go back. I gotta remember to start doing that so I can go back. But one thing you talked about was the school buses. So the school system that I went to elementary school in, they didn't have school buses.
Okay.
And it was not an affluent place, but you have to realize in the state in which I went to school at the time, the law says that you have to provide bus transportation if a student lived so many miles away from the school. I think more than 2 miles, I think. So as it relates to elementary school, for example, I told you our city was small and we had 3 elementary schools. Every child lived within 2-mile radius of the school. So you don't have to transport them. The middle school, technically, it met the school. I mean, it met the legal standard of 2 miles, but that was a stretch for a lot of people. And so for the kids who did need to come from one end of the city to the middle school, they would catch the public transportation bus.
Okay,
So
I
the
can
school
even.
system was in their, they were in their legal right to not
Mm-hmm.
offer a bus. But it was still too far for kids to be walking like across 4-lane highways,
Right.
for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
But the school system still did not provide a bus. They just had to catch public
Oh
transportation.
my gosh. Well, see, and here's the thing. I'm not saying I'm okay with public transportation just because, well, like now I'm not okay with it, but I know back then that was adequate. You know, you had 5, 6-year-olds jumping on public transportation in certain cities, not saying here, just to get to wherever. And that would be fine too if you offered it across every city. But every city either doesn't have the budget, they don't have the means. It's not really a necessity. So I understand that to a degree, but just have it offered, you know? So, hey, if you're under the age of 18 and you're going to school, you got a student ID. If that's needed, you can get on this bus for free and
Oh
drop
no,
you
it
off at
wasn't
the.
for free.
Oh, Bill, that's.
It was public transportation. You paid to get on the bus.
But still, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So
No,
many other
you
countries are ahead of us. Wow.
again, we are America, so it's a capitalist society, but it's one of those. And that's why I was going to say, with a lot of things you said, I can see it both ways. So I see it in your point of view. It's like, this is a kid, we're going to give them an education, but the education is free. Yes, the transportation is not necessarily free.
The education is not free either. You still pay for it as far as paying for the teachers and paying for the supplies.
Well, taxes pay for that technically.
Well, them taxes come out of my paycheck. So
I mean, that's again, that's the structure in which your schools are funded where you live.
Yes.
So in other states, schools are funded, for example, through sales tax.
Yes. I thought
solely sales tax, or some places it's solely property tax. Where we live, it's a combination.
It's a combination. Yeah, I was about to say
it's sales tax, it's property tax, and then within your property tax, we have something called a mill rate. Your mill rate really determines the percentage of the property taxes that are actually going to your school system. Okay, I have to get the actual formal definition, but
because I'm thinking of school
this
lunches.
Is a very no, not not meal, MEAL, like MIL, mill rate. So, if, for example, if your mill rate is a certain percentage of your property taxes that you pay on your home annually, think about, no matter how much your property taxes are, if you pay a low mill rate, 1, 2, 3% of what you're paying, and that goes to your school system, imagine what your school system is like versus somewhere that has a higher mill rate.
Well, that's
a higher percentage, but that is something that would have to pass by vote of the people in your city.
Yeah,
if they care enough about education, they'll raise the taxes that go toward their schools, and because they're saying we are willing to pay more to invest in the education of our students.
Okay, can I play devil's advocate real quick?
Okay, yeah, hold on, give me 1 second.
Okay.
A lot of times in those places, not only do they have a higher mill rate, they have higher property taxes. So it's a larger percentage of more expensive taxes because their property values are higher anyway. Well, typically, property values are a lot of times determined by school systems. So it's a symbiotic relationship. If you notice, places that have what we call better school districts, the houses cost more. So more expensive homes, more expensive taxes, at a higher percentage that's going toward the schools. We can argue better, but better again it depends on your definition of better. But they have more offerings. In their high schools, they have more variety of courses that they can offer. A lot of times they have more qualified teachers, meaning they have more terminal degrees, or more advanced degrees, more years of experience, more access to community leaders who more than likely are funding the schools privately with lots of donations.
Right.
They just have access to more resources because more than likely the parents have more resources. So
that's that generational wealth.
There you go. And that was where I was going with it. You're like, oh, we want diversity. And yeah, diversity is good, but diversity again is also subjective. Diversity could be race, it could be education, it could be socioeconomic status, it could be religion, it could be sexuality. So that word diversity is all encompassing of all the differences that we can have.
Right.
But again, where we live, a lot of times, aside from race, we are very segregated based on income.
Yes, we are.
So you can have a lot of diversity in every other sense of the term. Like you can have different races, different religions, different sexualities, but all the kids are fluent. Is that really diverse? But then on the other side of that, like, if you can afford it, why don't you want to give your kids that experience?
And
so right. That's the devil's advocate that I want, that was the part of it that I wanted to play. Is like, do you blame someone who can afford to give their kids a certain lifestyle, expose them to certain school systems? Like, do you choose, if you could, to go to a school that's not as affluent? I don't know.
Yeah,
I've known people to do it. They could afford to go anywhere, but they chose to stay where they were.
Yeah.
That's a choice, and that's okay. Nothing's right or wrong, but that was my 2 cents. It's like, yeah. And back to the whole legal thing about the buses, like, you don't have to, as long as, again, you can meet that standard of whatever I don't know what the new rule is, but back then I think it was 2 miles, but whatever the radius, as long as a kid can get to school and they live within that radius, the system does not have to provide them buses.
Gotcha.
Or even like you may run buses to the middle and the high school, but not the elementaries, because a lot of times there are more elementary schools in a system. And so the kids can walk or catch a ride to elementary school, but maybe not necessarily so for middle and high.
Right.
But I'm not a fan of school buses anyway. So, hey, my kid would never ride one.
Yeah, mine neither.
So I could care less about a school bus.
I was just thinking about those parents that either work overnight or they have to be, at work at the butt crack of dawn, and they do rely on school buses to, or some people just be like, no, I'm paying for the school bus's gas, so they're going to take my child to school.
Oh my gosh.
Like, some people think that way. They're like, no, I'm not wasting my gas to go sit in a line when,
it's your kid though.
I have met people like that even in my past, like with school, because I remember getting home an hour before the bus. Guess how far out of this, not out of the city limits. So we lived on the edge of the city limits, and as far away from the school that we lived, like we had to leave the house 15-20 minutes just to drop 15 or 20 minutes before she had to drop off the first kid, so she made sure everybody was dropped off before 8. So we had to leave at like 7:15 in the morning so she can go by 3 schools, and she'd pick us all up and have us back. My mom would pick us all up, have us back home before the bus that would pick us up or drop us off. We'd be home for an hour. That bus wouldn't come by until like 4:30, 4:45. And it's like, I will never ride the bus. I still got to look at these kids for an extra hour after school's out. No, thank you. You can miss me with that.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to. But yeah, no, I did have a devil's advocate on that, but you kind of answered that with because my thing was, well, what if they don't use those funds according to whatever? And then you went back to like, well, depends on who actually cares about the school and all that kind of stuff. And that was my devil's advocate, because it's like, I remember our city having one to up the property tax, so it would go towards the school or whatever, or it definitely wasn't the sales tax. It was definitely the property tax. And so many people were like, no, and against it. And I don't think it did not pass. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, well, because supposedly there were some underlining words in it. And as corrupt as the politicians are,
always.
I mean, I understand. Like, I never did read it, and I don't even think I voted at that point because I didn't get the information. I don't like voting on anything. If I'm going to vote, I don't like voting on anything if I don't have all the information, because I could be voting and then regret it. And I'm just, no, I regret too much in my life. I don't have time.
Oh my gosh, that definitely needs to be a topic.
About voting?
Yes.
Well, we got midterms in November. Maybe we can talk about
That'll
it.
be great. Yeah, that'll be a great topic.
And you can be the host of that one, because I'm going to sit in the back seat and be like, yeah, okay. I hate politics. I hate math and politics. There you go.
I love math.
And I just cannot stand politics. They're just...
No, I don't want to talk about politics. I just want to talk about voting. Like, you just made a good point, but I'm not going to go there because that's a rabbit hole. But we'll table that discussion.
Let's go away from
but
that.
I understand why people are hesitant sometimes to vote for raised property or sales tax, because we all know in America, once you raise a tax, it'll never come down. So even if you say, we need to build a new school, well, are you going to say this property tax is only in effect until we can pay for the new school? No, it's indefinitely.
And then where's that
so
money
the question
going?
is, exactly. And that's why a lot of times people do vote against it, because there's not a solid plan in place to talk about what happens after this short-term goal is met.
And I think
when I think in good faith, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because I was thinking about something else.
I was going to say, like, city councils or whatever municipality that's asking for the vote, I don't think it's anything wrong, even if it's never been done before. Be a maverick and say, no, we are going to raise the sales tax, but it's temporary. We only want to meet this goal, and then we're going to revert back to our existing taxes.
Yep.
It may not have ever been done before, but be the first municipality to do it.
Yep.
And see if people would support that goal.
Yep. Yep. Please. Because, I mean, it's not hard. Like, okay, who is the first person to come up with, what is it? Electric vehicles. Okay. Even though that's another rabbit hole to go down. It doesn't matter. Someone come up with it, and they were the first person to come up with it. And now it's a whole thing. Like, people have been studying it and remaking it and doing it forever. And now it's a whole thing to try to curb carbon footprint. Right. It's okay to try. Now, it may not be the best idea ever, but it's okay to try and see if it works. Like, no one is always stuck in this stupid tradition. And that is like, okay, I have a story about that. Rabbit hole, taking it, going, ride down with me. I remember going to this church and I had questions. And I don't know why I had all these questions, but I was a very questioning child. But you know that cloth that is on the remembrance table. You have one that goes on the actual table, and then you have one that goes over the communion if you're having communion. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I asked the pastor, because I couldn't ask the pastor. We were at church beforehand because, you know, it was my way and this is what I say and this is what we're going to do. And if you question me, then you're going against God. Whatever. But this guy, I asked him, I said, why are you covering the communion stuff? Like, is it so sacred that the only people that can look at it are the pastor and the deacon? Because if that's the case, then who's prepping it in the kitchen? Because I'm like, obviously someone else is looking at it. So what is it? You know, and it's like, oh, it's just what we've always done. But why? Why are you doing that? Now, I looked up this stuff before I even asked the question, because I was trying to see, not if he was stupid, but just trying to see if he had an actual legit reason why you covered it. And he said, it's just what we've always done. And I'm thinking, do you understand the history behind why that was done? And he was like, no. So I told him, and he was like, well, then why are we still doing it? Exactly. Why are you still doing it?
Nobody can give you an answer.
No, what?
I said, nobody can probably give you a straight answer or an answer that makes sense.
No. And when I told him, I said, you know, back before there was air conditioning and windows, like actual legit glass windows, to keep bugs from getting into the wine and on the bread, they covered it. It wasn't because it was so sacred nobody could look at it. It's so that bugs wouldn't get in it. That's why they covered it with a cloth. And the towel was over the table so that the wine wouldn't stain the table that was on it. If it, you shook it or whatever. That was it. So why are you using it now? You have air conditioning. There's no bugs in here, I hope. And so what's the point? He's like, oh, well, I'm like, and I was like, I just looked that up. Now don't take my word for it. You go look it up yourself. I mean, the internet's crazy right now. You can pretty much find anything and then back it up with some book that you can find in the library, maybe. But to sit here and say, well, it's because we've always done it, doesn't mean it's okay to continue doing it that way. Just because I always walk around here without a bra on doesn't mean I didn't wear one for 12 hours today. Actually, 13, 14 hours a day.
Oh, gosh.
You can change it. You can change it up. It's okay. It's uncomfortable, but it's okay to try something different. I'm just saying. The bra thing was just for you. I was just to let you know that.
I'm over here like, oh, Lord. I didn't even say anything.
No, that was just for you. That was just for you. And I actually forgot I had it on. That was really weird.
Gosh.
Yeah, I'm very tired.
She's so tired. She made a mistake and kept her bra on.
Exactly. But yeah, I agree with you. Be a maverick. Do something that's not normal. I would not be surprised if, actually, I'm not surprised at the number of increase virtual public school and homeschooling. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
So, how do you feel about virtual school as a viable option for education for K through 12 students?
I think it's a great idea as long as they still have a village, because it's no different than homeschooling, because you're at home, unless you're doing virtual, because I think in our state we may have 2 or 3 places that have a virtual building, in a sense, where students can go and do like testing and things like that if they need to, because they can't do them at home. They have to be in like a testing site.
Well, they can be state exams can't be done remotely, but just regular schooling tests can be proctored online.
Okay. Well, I just remember reading somewhere in a newspaper close to our city that there was a building that they were increasing because of the number of virtual public school kids. Mm-hmm. And they needed a place for like studying, testing, and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh, that's
that virtual?
Well, they still go to their they just have like a quiet place, I guess. It's more like a library, something like that. Like it's not like a bunch of kids from that one class go. No, that's not it. It's like they kind of come in and out kind of thing, like a library deal.
So if I want to go somewhere to work on my virtual courses but not stay at home, this is a place I can go and do that.
Right. You have an option to go to this one place. Now, don't hold me to that. That's just what I read in the newspaper like 2 years ago.
Interesting.
And it just kind of, I was like, oh, I didn't know they had that. So it's not a physical, it's a physical building, but it's not a physical virtual school kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But I love the idea. I'm waiting very patiently for the CEO to be like, all right, I'm sick of this. I want to get up at 15. I want to get up at 15 till 8 and then hop on and do my schoolwork and then go back to sleep after noon. Like I'm okay with that.
Too, because today that would have been the perfect time, 15 till 8 to wake
up. Exactly. And I'm like, you don't have to get up early. You just pop up out of bed, do one class, go eat your breakfast, come back, do another class. You know what I'm saying? Like I am all for it. Plus the CEO has plenty of friends that she can, for me, it would be fine. I wouldn't care if she decided to do virtual or not. I'm for it. The only issue I do have, which is the same issue I have with homeschooling, is the kids who are book smart and they need common sense. And the only way you get that common sense is through interaction with people that are not in your bubble. And sometimes that
Right.
virtual and homeschooling can prevent that. Now, yes, there are groups where you can get with other homeschool families and all that stuff. But if you don't click with them, then that's no different than going to a public school. So,
And I would push what you're saying more so, not just public school, because you can have different, like, I don't know, how can I put it? You're saying it's no different than going to a public school. Like, it lacks the diversity that you mentioned earlier.
right. Because
It's no different than going to a school where everyone is mostly similar.
right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Mhm.
it's filled with a whole bunch of homeschool kids. Like, they may have
Yeah.
different races, different socioeconomic status, but the overarching commonality is we're all homeschooled.
Homeschool,
So
right. That's no different than going to a
yeah,
private
that's not.
school that's
Yeah,
a Christian school. Well, you are
right,
all the same deal. You know, there's
right. Like,
nothing
there has to
different.
be a common value there.
Right. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not against homeschooling. I'm for homeschooling. I am not against it at all because it does work for some people. It works out better. And it's just, and some homeschool kids get a better education as far as overall, like, how to work in the real world because they see it firsthand versus they only see maybe 2 or 3 hours out of it if they're with their parents, if they go to a public school. So I get it, but at the same time, I don't know. Like you said, you're stuck at home on a compound somewhere and you don't get to go out and see things. Now, unless you're one of those families that travels and homeschools. Now, I think that is, if you can do it, do it. Like they go to different parts of the world or whatever, and they're homeschooling as they go. Oh, that's amazing. Love that idea. But everybody can't afford that. And everybody can't do or don't have access to that. But yeah, I'm all for it. I'm not against it. I'm not against any education. As long as there's equal opportunity to get to it and it's truthful education. It's like it is what has happened or what they will need to educate themselves and get themselves educated so that they can function in this traumatizing world. Like, I was thinking
it
about
is very.
huh?
I said it can be very traumatizing for some.
Yeah, just, but I was thinking about one of those questions that I said, I was like, can there be another subject besides math that you need to critical think or whatever it is that you need to solve a problem? Do you have to have math? Do you?
Of course, I will always say, of course.
So you don't. Got it. Thank you.
You do need math in life, but I wanted to go back real quick to you. You are I was gonna say a proponent. That's what I'm trying to say, of homeschooling. Oddly enough, devil's advocate, I understand how it can be beneficial for some, but I'm not a big fan of it.
Mm,
And the reason why I say that is because, and there's always room to corrupt any good intention thing.
yes.
But I think about the isolated nature of homeschool, and I think about those kids who may be living in abusive situations.
Yeah, that's why I said true and right.
It's like
Yeah.
that is like a breeding ground for days and weeks and months on end. Like, if you have a parent who knows how to abide by like all the school regulations, and they are legally doing everything they're supposed to do when it comes to documentation, and nobody's ever going to check up on this kid, these kids could technically be just being abused and nobody ever knows. Like, nobody's laying eyes on them. There could possibly or potentially be no other trusted adult in that child's life to assist them because parents are just keeping them at home.
Right.
At least I would say with virtual school, they still have to attend live sessions. So there are still adults who see them, who see their environment. They still have to interact with other kids. And so maybe there's a chance if they needed help, they can always type in the chat some kind of way, get a message or cryptic message to somebody. Like there's still some type of external outlet versus homeschool can be as isolated as the parent wants it to be. And that scares me. So that's what I mean when I say I'm not there's nothing wrong with it. Like you said, people who are doing it the right way. They're supplementing their kids' education with experiences and activities with other kids. Like they're not abandoning the social aspect or nature of being human, especially at that age, that developmental stage in their lives. As long as you're supplementing, that's okay. But I think some people homeschool to try to get around regulations, which you still have to go through state testing, even when you're homeschooled. There's no getting around that. But some people just like to stay home, and they're not even homeschooling. They just keep their kids out of school, and that's doing them a disservice too. They literally sit at home all day, do nothing. And then, if they even show up to state testing, they're not going to fare well because they don't know anything. They haven't learned anything new. So that was just the spiel I want to put out there. Think about student safety.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's just like, when COVID first hit and it was a huge, you can't have these, people in, domestic and abusive relationships, all that stuff. It's like, I understand that. Everybody understands that, I'm sure. And with the way the internet is and the way social media is and the way, people don't follow the rules, there's a way to get out of those situations sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And it's crazy how kids have to be crafty or, a girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, whatever has to be crafty just to get out of, these abusive relationships or situations. It's scary to even think that kids during even that darkest time still had to deal with that, or even now have to hide that stuff. And there's just like no safe way to get around it, even in public school. So, yeah, I get it. I get that devil advocate part of it. But of course, I'm looking at the happy-go-lucky because I'm seeing homeschool families and I see those kids and I see the parent that's homeschooled and I'm like, oh, that looks wonderful. How do you do it with 4 kids, But, that's just how I don't think about the abusive part of it. But, yeah, that is something. That is something.
Yeah, or even food. Like there may be people who can't afford to feed their kids like they should.
Yes.
They could go days upon end without eating and nobody would know.
Yes. And I'm not going to say that because that'll say too much. But anyways, yeah, I do think, I will say this. So I do think that with property tax going up, they really do need to earmark school lunches and breakfast as free for all eternity. To me. I know it's not possible and I know it's crazy, but I just feel like, because again, in those households where they can't get out, and even if they did, they wouldn't survive on their own. At least they have 2 hot meals if they make it there before, breakfast is over. Maybe even 3 now that some places serve an extra snack at school.
I need to go to one of those schools.
Yeah, you would.
Give me the extra snack.
You are in that food ministry.
Oh, yes.
But no.
Serving faithfully.
But no, that was a good talk.
But I don't know. Like, I don't know what side of the fence I am on that one, like the free lunches and stuff, because, well, first of all, I think all that is federally funded. So we don't have to worry about the state or local taxes funding that. That's a federal thing.
Well, somebody federally cut that.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Because I was thinking, there was a lot of kids that really benefited from those meals, especially during the summertime. And I'm like, really? Seriously?
How much is school lunch nowadays? I know how much it was when I was growing up.
I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't know. I would,
Like
with inflation, I would say $2, and I'm probably giving a lot.
well, that's not bad
$2 per kid.
because you got to think about it. The cost, like the program you're talking about, is like universal free lunch.
I guess. Okay.
Yeah, it's like every kid, like you don't have to qualify. You don't have to fill out any forms. It's just everybody. Like it's like Oprah. You get a lunch. You get a lunch. You get a lunch. Like your income doesn't have to be verified. However, with the traditional lunch program, you verify your income, and if you qualify for free lunch, you're still going to get the free lunch. It's not like you're being penalized. Like it's not like we're going from everybody gets free lunch to everybody pays for their lunch.
No, exactly.
Now it's on a sliding scale. So those who need the free lunch will still get the free lunch. If you kind of in between, you get reduced prices. And then if you can afford it, you pay.
Yeah, I just feel like
I think that's fair.
It's fair in the grand scheme of things.
But it's equitable. It's equitable. I'm not going to say fair. It's
for
equitable.
Me, it's just equitable. Okay. Anyways, I'm too tired to be thinking about that. It's
equitable means you treat everyone the way they need to be treated to reach the same goal.
Okay. Thank you. Because I'm not gonna remember that word to Google it later and make sure I knew what that meant.
It's like if you told animals to climb a tree. Or no, if you told an animal to reach something. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got you. No, I was saying the word when I heard it. I was like, I'll look it up later. Then I said, no, I'm too tired. I'm not gonna remember that. I'm not looking it up later. So, anyways,
I don't care that much.
I say I don't care.
I don't care that much.
But I just because I think about, okay, here's the thing. So you're thinking about the abused kid in like homeschool. I think about the abused or the illiterate parent, or the parent that's just doing enough to get by and they're working 2 jobs or whatever. And they missed filling out the information for free and reduced lunch, and they didn't quite get it to filled out or whatever. And, now they're having to pay full price for the lunch. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm like, well, they wouldn't have to do that. And you wouldn't have to worry about all that. Everybody just got, it's food, for crying out loud. It's just food. It's not gas. Okay. It's not, my thing is, it's like, as parents who buy school supplies, if I'm not saying all parents do this, but some parents will buy extra because they're like, well, what if there's one kid who's got a family who can't? Well, I'll just donate this extra. I'm sorry, you want these little minions to grow up and be taxpayers. To me, I would think you would want their safety and them to be fed and taken care of. So when they grow up, they can still pay you and let you sit on your butt wherever you are making up these laws. Like, I just feel like you would take care of the little guys. Like, come on. But that's just my little.
Yeah. Okay. No. Number one. So I have to come to the defense here.
Okay.
Number one, your argument is that
I'm tired.
Mom or dad or whoever is working 2 jobs and they're exhausted. They're so exhausted they didn't fill out the forms. So now they have to pay for lunch. Well, guess what? After a lunch or 2, hopefully you'll figure it out to go fill out those forms. If it's that important to you to stop paying, and you're confident that you would have qualified for free or reduced lunch, fill out the forms. And the sad part about it is nowadays, it's not even a form on paper. It's literally you just go online and do it.
Well, they gave
so
us
it's no excuse
this year.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't know about your school system, but
it might be online. I don't know. I'm just saying I got a paper.
Even if it's a piece of paper, let's just go there. Let's go all the way old school. Even if it's a piece of paper, anything that's important to you, you'll make time to get it done.
Okay, it's important to them. They just forgot to do it, and
that's okay. When you have to send this $2, okay, when you have to pay these $2, you will remember to go do it, and it's no deadline. Like, you can just fill it out whenever.
Oh, okay.
Fill out the form.
I don't have it.
They would prefer that it's done by a certain date because it does impact school funding and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the purposes of you saving money, you can fill that form out anytime you want to. So
Okay.
again, how many lunches do you have to pay for it to be worth your while to go get another paper and fill it out? So I don't feel sorry for you.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't. Make time to do what's important. Number
Okay.
2, you said it's not gas, it's not something, it's food. I don't really know what that means, but I really want to know, what did you mean by that statement? Because I have something to say about that. So what do you mean when you say it's not gas, it's just food?
Oh, because they don't
I would
want
think
to.
food is more important than gas.
You don't think food? Wait, hold on. Coming
No,
from
I
the
said
food.
I think food is more important than you say it's not gas, it's
Oh,
just food. Like, I would think food is more important than gas.
well, I was thinking about back when gas went up and people were like, well, am I going to eat lunch or am I going to? And then I was sitting here thinking to myself, well, y'all could pack a lunch. And then I thought about it. I was like, well, what if packing lunch for them is more work than it is just to stop by whatever and get some food? Depending on where they work and how long they work and if they have a place to store their lunch. And so I was sitting here thinking, people put more stock into gas prices than they would say the gas prices actually affect your food prices. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, okay, look, it's not gas here. We're talking about feeding kids who do not, currently use that, that you're griping about the prices going up on and you have to pay for all this gas. No, this is just the food that you already allot a certain amount of money for to order to have here. So why
Okay.
and then you throw away so much. You can throw away enough gas to go on a trip to have fun, which, take care of yourself. I'm not saying you can't go on a trip, but you're willing to throw money at a gas pump to build whatever you want to build for your city, your country or whatever. Well, these kids are going to be adults soon and they're going to be building this country or tearing it down. I don't know at this point. I think the next generation is going to tear it down. But I'm just saying, I just feel like you at least give them a PB&J if they're not allergic to peanut butter or ham and cheese.
So that was where I was
Just
going to go with next. No child is going to ever be hungry in public school.
so they're going to
They
feed
may
them
not
even if
get
they don't have
yes, they will. They may not get what's on the
huh.
menu, but they will give them a nut butter sandwich and either that or a nut butter and jelly sandwich and some milk and a fruit or a vegetable. They'll get something.
Huh.
It may not be, again, if today is pizza day and pizza and chips or nachos and all that, they're not going to get that, but they're not going to be hungry either. So whether they choose to eat it or not, that's on them.
That's
But no child will
interesting.
ever be hungry. You will never find a public school that says, oh, you don't have any money? Oh, well, guess you won't eat. Or what some schools would do, they'll either do that, or what some schools would also do is they'll still let you eat and they'll put it on your student account.
Yes, they do that now.
And that student account will run up and up and up. And guess what? It may run from kindergarten to 12th grade, but guess what? You won't get those transcripts when you graduate until that account is zeroed out.
That I have heard of that happening.
So most of the time they just try to cut it off, like you have to settle your account at the end of the year. So anything from library books to outstanding class fees, all that's at the end of the year. And so they may do things like you can't register for classes until next year, until you zero out your account. But technically, okay, that's another thing. But my point is this: no child is going to be hungry at school because they weren't offered something to eat.
Got you. I understand that, but I still think lunches should be free. So, anyways,
okay, we can agree. There goes our disagreement. I feel like lunches cost money, and the money has to come from somewhere. And just like you said, like we're allotting money, but think about for again in our state, school budgets are based on a fiscal year. So, for example, our schools are opening now, and they're still using the budget from last year. We can all agree that a year ago, prices were starkly different than what they are now. So, for example, if I was allotted $1.50 to feed every single child, like that I was supposed to make meals cost $1.50, that same meal a year ago may cost $2.50 now.
Right. Yeah.
Where did that money come from? It has to come from somewhere. So
that's why I said if you're gonna up the prices on the property or what have you, or whatever you're gonna up it on, I think you should put a little bit of that money towards, the meal plans. And I wish the food was a little bit better. And these people are feeding children half of a salad, some pinto beans, and I don't know what kind of meat they give them, but goodness.
It's never 100% meat. It's always going to be meat mixed with soy
Oh, that's
or
even
a
worse.
soy protein or pea protein. It's cheaper and it stretches the meat.
I gotta tell you
But
something.
again, if you don't like it, send your kid to lunch. I was the kid. I never ate school lunch. Like,
But you ate school breakfast.
I love school breakfast. It was real food. But school lunch, nope.
The CEO said that she was I asked her if she was gonna eat lunch at school this year because I thought they were gonna have free lunches and they don't. So I was fine with it. But I was just asking her if she was going to, and she said no. I said, why not? She said, it looks like it's cold.
It looks what?
I said, how do you know if it's cold? I said, are they feeding kids cold lunch? And
It
she says,
looks cold.
I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't like them. She don't like the way it looks.
Oh, poor baby.
Because I was
Again, that also matters about where you go to school because some school lunches are delicious and others are not.
Well, I feel like the school lunches outside of this country might be just a little bit better.
They might be a lot better and a lot fresher. But
Fresh,
again,
yeah. But that's just what I see, from the internet.
our prices are overinflated. Our prices are overinflated in our country, yet our funding
remains the
for
same.
school lunches is pretty low, right? So you don't account for inflation. Like I said with the example earlier, you want me to buy food at a current price based on last year's budget. When anybody who's trying to live through this pandemic / recession, we can all attest to the fact that our dollars are not going as far in the grocery store as they used to. So if you're feeling it in your household, imagine what they call them, CNP manager is dealing with when they're trying to feed thousands of children on a very limited budget.
Yep.
You do get more beans, you do get more meat substitutes because they have to stretch the dollar and they are required to meet certain dietary guidelines.
Right.
So beans are cheaper than a lot of things. You know what I mean? So you're going to have more beans. You're going to have more corn. You're going to have more canned fruit versus fresh fruit. Like,
and like you also
and the lunches
said,
are going to suck.
Man, bad. But like you also said, we're in a capitalistic country. The school system is a business, period. They have employees. They have a budget. They have, equipment that they have to have. They have supplies that they need. They're a business. They are a business.
But we don't generate income.
No, but you're still a business. You may be a nonprofit, but you're still a business. Okay.
Well, that's an organization. That's not a business. They're not making anything.
Whatever.
That's a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, whatever the term may be, you go with it. Anyway, think about it that way. Okay, just change it to a business that's making profit. Now, some of them, their CEOs, their presidents, or whoever are like, we're not changing our prices. We've made enough money, whatever. But others are like, okay, I still have to raise the cost of living because of this is going up because they need to pay for this. Because I want them to pay for this. So yeah, I get it. I understand it. I'm not, I'm not a dunce on it. I'm not like, oh, it's stupid. They should still know. I agree. I agree to also disagree. I still think they should. That's just because I feel the need to fill every kid's stomach every time I see them. And that's just the Southern mama in me where I'm just like, oh.
They're not hungry though. They're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or almond butter and jelly or sun butter and jelly.
Sun butter?
Sunflower seeds.
Ew.
That's what most schools have now is sunflower butter because some kids are allergic to peanuts and almonds. So sun butter is the safest way to
or they just take it out altogether and the only thing they give them is turkey and cheese. Because that's what they do over here. They don't have any peanut butter or nuts.
Child is vegetarian or vegan?
Then they don't eat that. Their parents better be sending them something.
Nope. You have to provide a meal for every child.
Well, then I don't know what they're gonna do.
Sun, butter, and jelly it is.
As far as I know, I sat there and I said, "Is because I asked one. I said, is this all they give these kids? Is this? Because I ain't never known no kid to sit here and eat no turkey and cheese sandwich. That sounds disgusting looking at it. Like I remember having it when I was younger because if you were poor, you probably had that meal. But like, come on now, we're in 2022. What in the world? Just like, well, we got
turkey
a peanut
and cheese.
Turkey and cheese, and then slap some mayo and mustard packets in there. I was so disgusted. Now I
mean, you can go to Subway and get a turkey and cheese sandwich.
With nothing else. That's just
like
sad.
Chips and an apple. I mean, I don't understand.
That's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Chips and an apple.
It's a meal.
It is a meal, but it's a very sad meal. And I was just like, what? Anyways, basically, the whole nut allergy thing came up and I was like, well, that's just pitiful. And I said, well, I hate it for you because guess what I have in my lunchbox? I knew I was at a field trip when I saw this and I was just like utterly appalled. And I had a PB&J and I looked at the boy and I said, are you going to eat that sandwich? He says, nope. I said, I got a peanut butter and jelly. You want it? He's like, yep.
Oh Lord, you're the parent who feeds kids. Okay, so
I told you I'm that Southern.
Stay away from her. No, do not eat food from people.
I am that Southern mom that's like, I don't want kids to be hungry, so I'm like, I will feed you.
Well,
that
was his choice. Don't eat it, but be hungry. Like that's your fault. Like your mom should have sent you a lunch.
No. I knew this boy, so it was fine for me to feed him. It wasn't no big issue. I'm not going to feed anybody's kid, but I knew like the group that I was taking care of. I knew all those kids. So I knew, what they couldn't eat and all that stuff. But I still am like, no, you got to eat something. One girl only brought some candy and some chips. I said, girl, you ain't going, well, did you pack your lunch? Yeah, that ain't lunch. Gave him
but again, the parents let them pack it.
I know it, but I got to deal with them and walk around with them, and they can't be hollering at me later talking about they hungry. I went without lunch that day because I spread my lunch out.
That will never happen.
I know for you, but for me, never. I was like, well, I got a few pounds I could leave here.
That kid will be hungry for the leave. I brought my lunch. You should have brought yours too.
But I just didn't. I was just like, I can't. No, you've got to.
But they gave them a lunch.
Yes.
Let's go back to this lunch.
What?
Again, I say, you go to Subway and get a turkey and cheese and chips and a cookie. Maybe not an apple, but
if anybody's
why you don't like turkey and cheese on a sandwich. Like I like turkey sandwiches. That's my favorite. One of my favorite foods is a turkey sandwich.
But you can't eat turkey sandwiches. Anyways,
I'm just saying, like, what's wrong with like people? A club is turkey and ham on a sandwich.
Whoa.
So you don't like turkey? Is that it? I'm trying to figure out.
No. Okay,
why we discriminate against turkeys?
I'm not against it. You stop it. Quit it.
Are you protesting turkey sandwiches?
Like I wrote your congressman and told him to get rid of turkeys.
Yeah, no more turkey. You went to the Supreme Court and they banned turkey sandwiches.
It's like I've done nothing wrong.
I'll have you know, I couldn't wait to deliver my child because I wanted my turkey sandwiches the entire time I was pregnant, and I could not have lunch meat. So the day I delivered, I called Jimmy John's, and I had turkey and cheese sandwiches the whole time I was in the hospital.
One, I was raised up on it. So for me, it's just too much. I can eat it. Don't get me wrong. But if I had a choice, I'm not getting deli meats at all. I'm not. I'm very picky about that just because. And well, let me take that back. I'm not getting the meat department deli meats. I will get the deli, like freshly sliced. I will do that. But
what is meat department what is meat department meat? Like,
the Oscar Mayers and stuff. That's what I mean. Like the already prepackaged stuff. Yeah, that stuff.
Okay.
But the deli, the fresh side, I will do that. That's fine. But the
Interesting.
sliminess.
This is so interesting to me.
It's slimy. The prepackaged is very slimy. It's very just it just doesn't give me what I want. So when I had my kids and they were like, all right, we got you some food, and they set that sandwich, and I said, can you at least put it in the microwave or something? Because that's just,
Oh, a hot sandwich. Ew.
I was like, I can't eat that. I got to the point where at one point when I was eating turkey and cheese, and yeah, I actually heated up the turkey just to help me eat it, because I was just like, I just got sick of it. I got so tired of it. And then
Okay, wait a minute. I don't know what kind of slimy turkey. Where did you buy slimy turkey from?
I don't even remember what brand name it was, but I mean, because there's one.
I have never.
It's like, okay, it's the wet meat conversation. I was just like, that's just nasty, and I can't.
Oh God,
I can't. I
don't do wet meat.
I just can't do that. I don't know why, but I don't. So if I go to Subway, I'm just not getting the prepackaged meat. I'll get the that might be chicken, whatever cut up. That might be chicken.
The might be chicken.
Well, look, they already got sued because it might not be tuna, so it might not be chicken.
And that's why I don't eat it Subway.
But I would stick to either the Italian meatball or the
oh gosh, you really don't know what's in that.
I don't have a clue. I said it might be meatballs, it might not be. But when I was going to Subway, that's what I would do. Or the chicken bacon bacon ranch was my thing. I just couldn't do the salami and salami.
That turkey was salami. Salami.
Oh my gosh.
You walked into that one.
I did.
You walked smack dab in the middle of that.
I ran right into the door frame.
Salami slime. Salami. Salami.
Oh golly. So yeah, I can't. I'm sorry.
Salami.
Oh.
It's fine. I'm done.
Okay. Moral of today's story is
don't eat wet meat. And please don't buy your meat from the deli either, because they don't, unless you're the first customer there. That's the story. That's the moral of the story.
Oh.
Lesson of the day is, if you're gonna go to the deli to get freshly cut meat or lunch, whatever, cold cuts, be the first one there, because if not, they are not cleaning that blade. That blade has been used all day on cheeses and meats, and it's just dried up meat juice from 3 or 4 hours ago on your meat. And no, that sounds like an infection waiting to happen. I refuse to eat that. I do not do deli meat at all. Nope. And the other moral of the story is to go buy a whole turkey breast and just smoke it or bake it yourself. And hand carve it and just have a nice hand carved turkey sandwich. Those are the best. You can control the sodium levels because you're seasoning that turkey breast.
Oh my goodness.
So the moral of the story is no wet meat and no dry meat particles on your fresh meat.
This sounds like an STD commercial. I am dying.
If you think about
it,
when you go to the deli, all the tubes of meat are in condoms. They have them wrapped in that plastic wrap, and then they have to unwrap it to slice it on the 5-hour use. Oh gosh, no, I'm not eating that.
I'm not gonna.
That is where food poisoning. That's where it begins, right there in the deli.
Oh gosh! Wait a minute.
I can't. I don't even know how that's legal. I don't even know how the FDA, who is the FDA, the USDA, the health department, whoever. I don't even know how that's allowed.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't believe. Oh geez. The moral of the day story had nothing to do with food, but somehow here we are.
Every single time.
I was gonna go with, be happy with where you went to school at, but no, that doesn't top
Or support the holistic education of your children.
Okay, that sounds like a good one too. But
and pack their lunches, because that school lunch is horrible. That meat substitute sloppy Joe.
Oh goodness, I don't even know if they do that anymore.
Oh,
I don't think they do. The last few
sure.
times I've seen the lunch.
Okay, yeah. The Crispitos. They love the Crispitos.
What's the Crispito?
Oh my gosh, the kids love them. And there was a shortage 2 years ago.
What is a Crispito? Because it sounds like
oh gosh, it's horrible. It's an god awful food. It's up there with hot dogs. So a Crispito is a tortilla. And this is all pre-made. That's another thing. We're not even cooking food for real at the cafeteria. They just
heating it up.
Pre-packaged stuff. I can't stand that. Yeah. But it's a tortilla, nacho cheese, and like taco ground beef taco meat. And they roll it up really tightly and they deep fry it. They flash fry it.
Okay,
and so they freeze it and they ship it to all these schools all around the country. And when they get them in these schools, they heat them up in the oven. They bake them until they're done, and then they slather nacho cheese on top of
them. Wow. Okay.
Or they serve it on the side and the kids dunk it.
That sounds
It's a deep fried roll up taco.
Carnival food. That's what that sounds like.
And the kids go crazy for Crispito Day.
Okay. Actually, I was thinking it was a chimichanga that was just like a great value chimichanga.
I'm telling you, like, even adults try to find the Crispitos, like buy them in bulk, like from the restaurant supply store.
It's not that serious, y'all.
It's a thing. Oh my gosh. Like I read an article in the newspaper when the shortage happened. Like people were up in arms, like, where are the Crispitos? I'm like, this stuff is horrible. I have never wanted to eat
tortilla shell, nacho cheese, ground beef, seasoned.
Roll it up,
fry it like a chimichanga, freeze it, heat it up in the stove, and then pour more nacho cheese on the outside. God,
how is that nutritious and delicious?
Excuse me, that sounds like constipation. That's what that sounds like.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
A crispy, exactly what it sounds like. A crispy Speedo is up your rear end, and you got to push it out. That's what
I call them a crispy burrito. That's what it is. Like, that's why I call it. It's called a Crispito, and I was like, why is it a Crispito? Is it a crispy burrito?
Yes.
And they always gonna serve it with fruit, milk, and a scoop of pinto beans.
Oh,
like, this is.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that is disgusting.
Or corn. It's either going to be the pinto beans or the corn or both.
Oh my gosh, that just
and then some
disgusting.
Room temp canned fruit.
That was
and some milk. And the milk is never the right temperature. I cannot stand
and it's
less than freezing milk.
It's 2% milk on top of all that. It's literally.
Oh gosh, that's horrible. Just that thick milk in your mouth.
Oh, let's not.
But the chocolate milk is always made from whole milk.
That makes no sense whatsoever. Made no sense whatsoever. I remember us having a choice in school. You could have whole milk or 2% milk or chocolate milk. Chocolate milk, of course, was more expensive, but you could have whole milk or 2% milk. But I never understood, why would you give someone that in the middle of the day after they've ran or they're about to run? Why would you give them milk? Like, why would you do that? Give them water.
And do they offer something different now? Do they offer non-dairy milk?
I don't know. From what I saw on the field trips, it's still 2% milk. I don't know what else they would offer for someone who's lactose intolerant or whatever. I don't know. I have no earthly idea. But my child drinks water, or she takes Kool-Aid pouch, which I'm leery of those, by the way. That's something I've given in on because I've seen so many of those like bursts, and they have mildew or something in them. I'm like, ugh. I want a clear pouch. I want to see what's inside. I don't want my kid to put
There are some that are made with clear. It's clear on the bottom or clear on the back.
Yeah, I know there's some. They like this one flavor, and I'm like, it's cheaper, so I just kind of stick with it. But I just pray they're
Shout
all
out
good.
to Honest Company. Yeah, that's all you can do.
I will tell you this right now, then we can go. Your CEO, she drank some of that, and she was like, "This ain't apple juice."
Wait a minute, CEO.
She said, "This is nasty." She said, "It tastes like they put some water in this, Mom."
Wait a minute. Now, what you're not gonna do is disrespect the Honest Company juice.
She does not like it. Now, Pastor, on the other hand, he don't turn down nothing. So,
in the words of my sibling, I don't turn down nothing but my collar.
What? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Thought you flipped your collar up, not flipped it down. I mean, it was cool.
You don't turn down nothing but your collar.
All right.
But no, I like those juices. I had 3 of them tonight for dinner.
3?
Well, they're only 6-ounce juice boxes, so I needed 3.
But they don't come in a big container. I don't think I've
they
seen
do. They do.
Oh,
they sell them in 64-ounce bottles, but I buy them in bulk in like a variety pack. And my kiddo will drink the pink lemonade, the fruit punch, the apple juice, but not the grape.
Because it probably tastes like watered down communion juice.
No, I don't know what it. I don't like grape flavored anything because I don't feel like it tastes like grapes.
It doesn't.
But I'm not gonna throw it away either, so I'll drink them.
It tastes like purple.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. All grape flavored things taste purple.
But at least I know it's nothing artificial, like no artificial colors, no. It does have no added sugar, but obviously it has fruit juice in it. But it's not bad for you, so.
My kids stick to water.
Drinking it.
Water and 1 juice a day. 2 if it happens to be electrolyte based, and they've been sweating and hot. I'll give them that, but mainly water, and mainly by choice. They do.
I was gonna say the fact that you're rationing juice, like that's good. They want to drink. Like mine, it's like one of those. We have a free for all today. Dinner was 2 donuts, and I was like, "Good job."
You didn't even make him go to school today, so why would you enforce anything else?
Well, I actually fixed dinner, but
you put too many peppers in that mess. Nobody wants to eat that.
No, the deacon's not gonna eat.
You had 19 different types of peppers in there. No, nobody's eating that. I sat there and counted. I was like,
For our listeners, I cooked dinner tonight, and I had an Asian inspired stir fry. So it had red bell peppers, green bell peppers, yellow bell peppers, onions, garlic, ginger, carrots, broccoli, and Napa cabbage.
I could have sworn I saw. And did you say orange red pepper? I mean orange pepper.
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on, wait a minute. Orange. No, I think it was. Yeah, it wasn't yellow. It was orange.
Hold on, let me look at the
yellow
picture.
too. I may have had orange, yellow, green, and red. So maybe 4. Okay, 4.
I'm looking at this picture.
4 is the max anyway. Those are the only colors of bell peppers you can.
There's yellow. I don't see orange.
Okay, so I had 3. Yellow. Yeah. And I was missing my mushrooms. I was really upset about that, but I dealt with it. Man, that was it. It was just a vegetable stir fry with lots of like sesame oil, coconut, not coconut, soy aminos,
I wish I could see the
aminos.
peppers in this thing though. I looked at this and was
Oh my
like,
God.
ain't they nothing but peppers
You
in
know
here?
what? You can use that picture for our social media account.
I will. Because I'm like, there's
There
so
you
many
go.
peppers in there.
That was like before, like I had just thrown it into the pan. So
I was like, I got heartburn
But
looking at that
anywho,
picture.
it's bell peppers. They're good for you. Anywho, the deacon is not going to eat that. The deacon eats what the deacon eats: cheesy noodles.
Mm.
Cheesy noodles.
Okay.
But I guess today it wasn't a cheesy noodle day, so he ate a donut. And I thought, okay, cool.
Cool. We had our special.
Oh, today is Friday.
Yes.
So it was, hold on, Fries Friday?
Yeah. It was Fries Friday. And I'm not the only one that does that either. My neighbor does it too.
French Fry Friday.
Fried chicken. I made chicken fingers from chicken breast and fries. Yep.
Hey, nothing wrong with a few family traditions.
Just because, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in here. My house smells like cooking oil and high blood pressure and high cholesterol.
Fried foods freak me out just for that reason. I do not like the smell of grease.
It does annoy me. And I didn't have to, but there's this, I did not know there was a way to clean cooked grease. So you mix water and cornstarch together and you turn the oil on and you don't turn it up like you were going to fry something. You just turn it up so it'll start warming. And it's some kind of chemical reaction happens and the cornstarch and water start collecting the debris, even the fine particles in the oil, collect it together and you strain it. And it makes the oil will come back out a little cloudy, but once you heat it up, it clears up. I did not know that. And the CFO sent me a picture or video on it. Yeah, it's a real thing. I did not know this. And then I looked it up today because I was like, well, I forgot we only had like half a gallon. And I was like, well, let me see if I can do it real quick. I looked it up to see if it was actually true. And it's true. There's an actual way to do it. And it's not like, oil and water don't mix. It's, you're going to burn your house down. No, it's like some kind of chemical reaction that happens. It takes about 10 to 12 minutes to clean the oil. And you may have to do it twice, but it'll clean it right on out. And it'll be clear.
Okay, help me understand. What are we cleaning?
The oil. Like when you fry something in it and you have that debris left over, you have the flour or pieces of food or whatever that's stuck in there that you couldn't get out. Well, when you strain it to get that stuff out, it doesn't always get all of it out for you to reuse it again. So you can use, like I said, cornstarch and water. It's a certain measurement. So you have to look up the measurement for how much oil you're trying to clean. You can't just dump water and cornstarch mixed together and expect it to work. And you throw it in there and you heat it up on like the not lowest setting, but between low and medium heat to clean the oil for a second use if it's very dirty or very cloudy. You need to use it again. Supposedly, this is something that's been going on for years. People have been using the cornstarch method to clean their cooking grease. Their cooking oil, not grease. I'm sorry.
So, that's interesting.
Yeah, I just dump it out.
Throw it away.
That's I just throw it. I just throw it out. But I didn't have that option this time. I actually needed as much as I could get because I forgot. CFO had cooked. Fake. I thought about throwing them in the air fryer. I really did, but I didn't feel like making a paste and throwing them in the air fryer because it does work in the air fryer too. You can fry your breaded chicken in the air fryer. You just have to do a paste on it though.
But why do we have to bread it? Why can't it just be nice naked chicken?
That's boring.
Oh my gosh. So flour and grease makes it fun.
Okay. Seasoned self-rising flour, buttermilk, seasoned buttermilk makes it fun.
Self-rising flour?
Yes. It makes it extra crispy, extra unhealthy. All-purpose
Okay.
flour to me just doesn't do it. But self-rising, it gives it that extra crunch.
Because it has baking powder in it. That's
Yep.
why.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you can just buy baking powder.
You can, but it's just not the same. To me, it's not. I tried doing that with pancakes one time, and I was just like, this is sad. This is depressing. Get me self-rising flour. I could skip the baking powder. And then it tastes like baking powder on top of all that. That's nasty. All right, we gotta go. We gotta go. I want to go to sleep. I'm tired. School started back this week for us, so I'm officially a morning person, and I don't want to be.
Yippee, skippy.
Except for somebody skipped today because they didn't want to go back to sleep.
Hey. It is what it is. That's what you can do when you're 3 years old. You don't have to go to school. Well, you don't have to go to school ever in life. So shout out to everybody who likes to skip school.
You can skip school for
School
10
is
days.
overrated.
Okay, wait a minute. The person that, you know what? The moral of today's story, don't listen to the person that advocated for school, but then says school's overrated. That is
I
my
like
moral.
school. I think school is important, but hey, there's nothing wrong with skipping a few days.
10.
It's called self-care. It's
10 at
self-care.
max.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
No. 10 at max before you get a truancy letter, depending on where you go.
10 unexcused.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is when you miss school, get an excuse.
Go to your doctor and say, I need a mental health day.
There you go. And with that, my friend, I will say have a good night.
Have a what?
A good night.
Oh, you was whispering. I didn't hear you. But anyways, it's all good. I was probably half asleep anyway. Anyway.
Oh my God.
All right, friend. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, did you enjoy that podcast? So did we. Check us out for our most recent updates on IG at City Country Chicks Podcast.